Okay, let's move on to, Te Hunga Roia, Roia Maori Aotearoa submission. Just a moment, there we are.
Welcome, Ty. You've got 10 minutes with us this morning, so I'll hand over to you to start your presentation.
Tuatai tēnei rā te mihi atu kia koutou, te komiti e whiriwhiri nei tēnei take I tēnei wā. Good morning to the committee. My name is Tai Ahu. I'm from Waikato Tainui in Ngāti Kahu. I'm currently a lawyer that works for a small law firm called Fire Legal on a range of Māori legal issues, including te tiriti. I'm here this morning presenting in my capacity as the co-president of Te Hunga Roia Maori Aotearoa, the Māori Law Society. My friend Natalie Coates presented to the committee on Monday. In her personal capacity, she is the co-president Tumuaki Wahine of Te Hunga Roia Maori Aotearoa. And as you might expect, we support and endorse the submissions made by Natalie in her submission. We also support the submissions made by the New Zealand Law Society in their written submission. So a little bit about who we are. The Māori Law Society was established in 1988 and represents the Māori legal community, including Māori lawyers and students from around the Motu. We all stand united in opposition to this bill and ask the committee to recommend that it does not proceed into law. I would like to make a preliminary point about the process, because the assurances of the Prime Minister, most recently at Ratana, that the bill will not proceed into law, are cold comfort to Māori, whose historical experience of the law has been one of land confiscation, of denigration of culture and language, and the denial of Indigenous and tiriti rights. Those assurances also ignore the divisive impact that the bill has had so far, even though it is of course not yet law. In many ways, the damage is being done right now as we speak. The bill has already exacerbated institutional distrust by Māori towards the machinery of government. It has already fostered cynicism in our political system and in the lawmaking process. And most importantly for Te Hunga Roia Māori, it's already caused many Māori to become sceptical of the law itself, a law that for the past 50 years or so has strived to come up with a way to try to restore, recognise and protect tiriti rights, not take them away. I think it is important firstly for the committee to ask itself, what will the practical effect of the bill be? In Te Hunga Roia Māori submission, whānau need to know that the effect of this bill is not just theoretical. The full reach of the bill is impossible to tell at this point in time, but it will have real-world consequences. I don't think that it will override long-standing case law that recognises te tiriti as an aid to statutory interpretation, such as the Huakina case, Barton Prescott, Trans-Tasman Resource Limited and Taranaki Whanganui Conservation Board, to name a few of those cases. The treaty will still be legally relevant where it is referred to in statutes, but the problem is the bill will strip te tiriti of much of its substantive content and its legal meaning, in particular the recognition that iwi hold and exercise te tino rangatiratanga. The practical legal effect of the bill, for example, will change how the law recognises and provides for Māori cultural values, how decisions potentially are made about the placement of Māori tamariki in care, how decisions about resource consent applications for things like discharges of effluent near urupā and in rivers and streams will likely change, as well as decisions, for example, about the recognition of Māori language and culture and education. All of those are potential areas that the bill will impact on. And I would suggest to the committee that the legal impact of the bill across the statute books as a whole has not been carefully or thoroughly thought through in the drafting. We think it's important to be upfront about the intent behind this bill. It has been cunningly but explicitly designed to strip away many of the pre-existing rights of Māori as Indigenous people. This is evident when we read how the principles in practice operate. As you know, Principle 1 gives the Crown the full power to govern and the full power to make laws in the best interests of everyone in accordance with the rule of law. And there are two important issues in relation to Principle 1. Firstly, it doesn't attempt to reconcile or address several Waitangi Tribunal findings that Māori never ceded sovereignty in a total sense. Also, Principle 1 fails to recognise that since 1840, the Crown's power has never been unbridled. Cases as early as 1847 in Aaron Simmons through to the 2003 Lands case and beyond have recognised that the Crown's right to govern is constrained by its pre-existing duties it owes to others. That includes Te Tiriti o Waitangi and Tikanga Māori. This is not controversial. It is a fundamental part of how Crown exercise power in our country, and it is the orthodox legal position. There is no good reason to have a law that cherry-picks or confuses that long-standing basic proposition. Secondly, Principle 1 assumes that recognising distinct pre-existing treaty rights somehow detracts from the rule of law, somehow takes away from the idea that we are all equal before the law. This differentiation is false. Our law has always sought to accommodate differences for different groups of people, where those differences are justified and recognised in the law. There is no such thing as some colourblind utopia in our law. Principle 2 of the bill relegates Māori rights and interests to those negotiated in treaty settlements, where those differ from the rights of the ordinary citizenry. It strips out the recognition of tino rangatiratanga, and as other submitters have stated, treaty settlements have never reflected the totality of Māori rights and interests under the treaty. They were never negotiated in that context, and this principle uses historic treaty settlements in a way that was never intended, to confine, limit and codify the current and future application of te tiriti. Principle 3, that all New Zealanders are equal before the law and that everyone has the same fundamental rights. Now that principle ignores many parts of Māori society who face barriers to equality which others do not, and many of those barriers were actually of the Crown's making. which means that Māori do not always have a level playing field when we're talking about other New Zealanders. Equitable treatment, we think, is required to ensure that those outcomes can be more substantively equal. Now, the final point I want to make before opening up for questions is that Te Hunga Roia Maori is not opposed to a national conversation about te tiriti, but our point is that forcing Māori to participate defensively in a constrained select committee process and under the threatening shadow of a bill that strikes at the heart of the treaty is not a national conversation. It is very damaging to the relationship between Māori and the Crown, and we need to do better. Nō reira, apuranga tira tēnei te mihi kia koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Well done. All right, we've got 2 questions lined up. First from Duncan Weaver, then from Tam Paul, and then Trawa. You've got time.
Good, I'll be quick. Look, I want to ask you a big picture question, and that's in terms of the treaty's impact. To what extent do you think the treaty and the partnership it creates is important to ensure that Te Ao Māori tikanga and customary law is actually taken into account by our courts and our parliament when we approach kind of law making and law doing?
Well, I would say that the treaty has been a really important linchpin for the Crown. It legitimises the exercise of that Crown power. That's the first point I'd make. But it has been an important pathway to ensure that things like Māori health, Māori language, Māori culture are included and factored into the lawmaking process and as part of our law. As I said, I don't think that this will render the treaty irrelevant, but it has a very powerful chilling effect in the development of policy, and it has substantive legal effect that strips away from that original intent.
Thank you, Tai. Tamitha, and then Rauli, if we've got time.
Morena, one of the big comments that people in support of this bill have been making is around the judiciary, and they've been saying that the unelected judges is the main thing that a lot of them have been saying. Could you speak to the judiciary, how important it is, that separation of powers, and talk to us and talk to the public about why that's so critical?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the judiciary, many of whom have really taken an unfair rap, and certainly in the past 5 years or so, where I think a lot of criticism has been unjustified. They are an important branch of the government. They are there to ensure that there is a balance of power across the whole exercise of government. So I think that we have to be able to trust the judiciary and to be able to ensure that they are considering the case before them in light of the law that exists currently. Most of the cases, I think, are actually being relatively orthodox application of treaty principles and not in a way that's been inconsistent with our kind of liberal democracy. Yeah. So I think a lot of the criticism has been unfair.
Sure, I think that's all the time we've got this morning, so I just want to send my appreciation for you being with us.
That brought up a good point about the judiciary, about the fact that judges are not elected, but do you want judges who are going to campaign on, I'm going to rule against any treaty bills that are in favour of Māori?
No, because judges are not politicians. Their job's to interpret the law, not to write it.
Yeah.
You don't vote for a judge. That brings partiality into it. And by the way, people go, unelected judges, they're woke. Where were the unelected judges when the Crown violated their treaty agreements?
Oh, that wasn't woke then because it was in the agreement of those who sit there and call it woke now.
Yeah, it's like, come on. It's just so stupid. It's dumb.
How's the Live Plus?
It's live additionally.
Live additionally.
But yeah, I mean, it's like Luxon has really, he is so fucking out of touch. In more ways than one. But so far, this bill has costed the taxpayer over $6 million, and it's going nowhere. It's a dead bill. Why are we still spending money on it? Just kill it.
Some of the private members' bills were more detailed than this one.
I know.
The part that got me was like the fact like it was 1 page, and I've seen some members' bills that are a lot more than 1 page for something that for a government bill. I thought it would have been a bit more detailed, considering other bills that have gone through are like, what do you call it, a good number of pages long.
I mean, more people marched against this bill than they did vote for the ACT Party. Like, the ACT Party got votes and support, then opposition to this bill. I think that's all you need to know to fucking kill it.
Yes, yeah.
Like, I'm all for well-considered regulation and all that, but at what point do you just ignore that more people marched to this for...
Oh, I mean, if you put David Seymour, he would sit there and say that they sat down there when they got to Whitmore Street, they were sat there and chucked on a shuttle bus taken back to the back in Courtney Place to start the march again. That's the sort of stuff that, would be, I would expect to be told. But, I mean, you'll probably say the same thing happened on the Auckland Harbour Bridge as well, considering, it was estimated 50,000 people walked over the Auckland Harbour Bridge. It was quite a significant figure, even though I do believe there might have been that group of people who joined the Hikoi just to say they walked over the Harbour Bridge, considering, I know at the Newtown Residents Association meeting, Rona said, if I was in Auckland, I have a mobility scooter, I would have gone over the harbour bridge just to have that experience. You know, it wasn't just about like, you know, so yeah, I mean, who knows? But yeah, David Seymour would say you'll have people who want it for that experience, not because of the hikoi, even though it was kind of...
How the fuck does he know? Has he gone out there and taken stats?
No, it's vibes. Come on.
Vibes, yeah.
Yeah, vibes.
I mean, imagine if this bill was in effect when Uhumato was being debated over, you know, when Labour was doing their thing, granting it back to Māori. It would be sold to Fletchers. It would have been completely given to Fletchers, and Fletchers would have made a huge ton of bank off of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened in the past as well with Māori.
Yeah.
And so, the most important question here, that I think to be the most important question here is, how does this bill benefit Pākehā? Because we know how it's going to not benefit Māori. How does this bill improve relations between Māori and Pākehā? And how does it improve the rights of Pākehā? I don't know. I asked my dad, he's Pākehā, he doesn't know.
I have the idea. The note I took was, it's not that I didn't have time to read the bill in full. I cannot navigate my strong emotions about it. Because while the ideas and principles to agree on are exciting and modern, I did begin to see the whitewashing elements, and with the restructuring on which entities would make decisions toward Crown-Māori relations, would nullify all the good work on the way to this day. So I think for all of those who don't want to engage in the debate or admit that their ancestors or you know that they live in a place that has unaddressed issues. So that's how it would serve the general populace that don't want to see Māori on street signs.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, the Order Paper Podcast.